Kenya is a very cashless country. Maybe the misconception people might have about Kenya is that we are not so technologically savvy or developed, but we really are. I mean, Kenya is the home of M-Pesa, which is the biggest like mobile money operator, which gives us like an advantage when it comes to, let's say, Bitcoin adoption, because Bitcoin it's digital money as well. It's just like really better money, but
Right.
people already understand how digital money works. I think this is the debate, Bitcoin as a medium of exchange versus store of value. Personally, for me, I believe like using Bitcoin is what gives it value and that there's no value without exchange. So even if you're holding your Bitcoin to use later, when that later gets here, you still have to use it. And I believe that the medium of exchange, store of value, they feed on each other. And I think we should stop, putting them apart. And then I feel like the West is so different from, like their reality is so different from our reality. For us here, Bitcoin means access and freedom. It's a system that values us, it values our human rights, it respects us, it does not discriminate against us. It basically works for us. And it doesn't ask anything from us, come as you are. Like, I'm here for you. And so, yeah, when you have that, why would you use anything else?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bitcoin for Professionals. Our guest today comes to us from Kenya. We have Sabina from Tando. Sabina, thank you very much for taking the time today and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I'm super excited to be here and, share my story and also like the story of Bitcoin in Africa, specifically in Kenya.
Great. We're looking forward to that. So you are the co-founder of Tando. You're going to tell us all about it. You're also involved with Bitcoin Data, which is a Bitcoin grassroots adoption in Kenya and in Africa. Can we maybe start by introducing yourself to those who do not know you? Tell us a bit more about your background, your journey before you started doing what you do today.
Okay. So again, my name is Sabina, and what I did supply chain. I did a degree in supply chain management, and I worked a corporate job for some time. I worked at a circle in the procurement department, specifically in the logistics sector. And I always used to tell my mom, like, I am not meant for the 9 to 5. So I really didn't like it there. And I was looking for ways to just exit and find something else to do. That's where I found freelancing. Actually, I was doing freelancing even before I got this job. I was doing freelancing when I was in campus because as a college student, you need to make extra money whichever way you can. So for me, that was freelancing. So yeah, I had been doing that for some time. And actually, that's where I came across Bitcoin. I came across Bitcoin in campus. I remember in our school, in our WhatsApp group, some people came and claimed that there's a way you can make money quickly through Bitcoin. Like, give us this money, give us this amount of money, and we will double it for you in 2 weeks. I mean, we all know that the Ponzi scheme story. Ponzi schemes are a big thing here in Africa, and most of us, we've been victims. So people really did give out their money so that it can be doubled in 2 weeks, including my classmates. But for me, I was very skeptical. Because I asked myself, like, how are you doing it? And they're like, oh, it's this thing called Bitcoin, this and this and this. There were so many lies, and they were taking advantage because for us, we didn't have the education or the knowledge. So yeah, people were scammed, people lost their money. But for me, that's where the itch started. I was like, I need to learn more about this Bitcoin thing. So let me go and do my own little research. Back then, it was around 2018, 2017. I just understood. So after Googling what is Bitcoin, I just understood that it's digital money. It's just internet money, digital money. And I was like, I didn't understand the difference between Bitcoin and M-Pesa, because in Kenya we have M-Pesa, which is our version of mobile money, and I'm going to talk about it later maybe. And it's basically digital payments. Kenya is a very cashless country. Most of us use M-Pesa for all our payments. So I didn't understand the difference between Bitcoin and M-Pesa. So I kind of dismissed it because I didn't see any use for it. And then fast forward after campus, when I was still doing my freelancing, I had this one gig where I was doing transcription for a company called Rev. And sometimes I would get assigned like this to transcribe this podcast, and there were podcasts talking about Bitcoin and crypto and all that. And I was like, this Bitcoin thing, it keeps following me. I really, really now want to learn more. And I was like, I want to take this serious. And I reached out to a couple of friends who understood the crypto world for guidance. And I'm asking them like, which path or which route should I take? Because there's so many cryptocurrencies. Like, I just need to focus on one. I don't have the bandwidth to like learn there's so many different types of crypto. I just need to focus on one. So which one would you advise? And nobody gave me like a real answer. They would always be like, download Coinbase, buy Solana, buy Ethereum, and then wait for a period of time and then sell it. And I'm like, no, I want to understand more. I want to learn more. Because even them, they didn't understand anything. They were just there to make money. So they would buy, sell. They're traders, buy, sell. They didn't bother to go deep, the rabbit holes and get to really understand and digest what these things stand for. I think it was in 2022, that's when I came across Bitcoin data on the internet. I was just searching like, and I came across it and I was like, wow, this is so perfect for me. I've been looking for, such a platform. So basically, Bitcoin Data educates African women. It's a platform that educates African women about Bitcoin education. And so, yeah, I enrolled to the classes and they were so great. I got to learn a lot about Bitcoin. It's what I've always wanted for, whatever years. And the best thing about Bitcoin is it's permissionless. That's what like stood out for me. Now I understood like the difference between Bitcoin and M-Pesa. Anyway, I really did appreciate the permissionless nature of Bitcoin. So after doing the Bitcoin data course, I then graduated, and luckily I landed a job there weeks after my graduation. I was doing their content, their marketing. I was basically their growth lead for some time. And when you're doing content creation and marketing stuff, you really have to do your research well. So I spent a lot of hours like researching Bitcoin, learning more stuff about it so that I can curate this perfect content for people on social media and so on and so forth. So it really gave me a great opportunity, and it laid the foundation for me when it comes to Bitcoin and learning the ins and outs of Bitcoin. And then I feel like that journey is what now led me to co-founding Tando, because at Bitcoin Data, naturally I was getting paid in Bitcoin, which was super, super exciting at first. But after some time, I could not ignore the friction when it came to spending this Bitcoin. And so I always asked myself, like, how can we easily spend Bitcoin? Yes, there were ways for us to spend Bitcoin in Kenya, like not like spend, but you had to sell it on exchanges, sell it for dollars, and then convert the dollars to Kenyan shillings. It was just like a tedious, time-consuming, expensive process. And I was just like so tired of it. Like end of month, I'll be like, "Oh, I have to do that process again." And it was I didn't like it at all. And I was like, this needs to change. And so that was like the genesis of Tando. There are so many other factors that led to Tando, but I believe like my own experience really pushed me to create a solution to the problem I was facing. And now I'm here as co-founder of Tando, and I'm invited to this cool podcast to share more about it and Bitcoin and everything. And I'm super excited. But in a nutshell, that has been my story. And yeah.
I love the progress you mentioned. Initially, you were at university. You were also doing some freelancing work. You were looking for a good crypto, a good digital money to invest, and then you were not getting the answers you were looking for because clearly, like you said, people around you didn't have a clue either. They were just telling you randomly, buy this coin and buy this coin.
Yeah.
And then you found your niche in Bitcoin data. You got the education, let's say, or the information you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, it seems to have happened very organically. You got offered a job, which made you do more research about Bitcoin because I guess you want to ethically be able to push out some correct, authentic content. And then you will. I'm gonna ask you about the genesis of Tando, but this is kind of like the first milestones of you establishing yourself in the Bitcoin space in Kenya specifically. I really like that. I wanted to ask you before we jump into Tando and Bitcoin adoption. So yeah, you said you're based in Kenya.
Yeah.
Can you maybe share one of the big misconceptions that people outside of Africa and outside of Kenya have about Kenya specifically?
A misconception about Kenya. That's a tough
Like,
one.
I'll tell you something. When you mentioned that your society is very cashless because of the
Yes.
M-Pesa, which is, I didn't know, for some reason I would assume that for whatever reason that it was maybe more of a economically developing country, so cash would be, let's say, just like in Lebanon, cash is very big here where I am
Hmm.
from because we
Hmm.
don't really trust the bank so much. So this is something I didn't know about Kenya. I thought it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no, I get you. Like I told you before I started recording, Kenya is a very cashless country. Maybe the misconception people might have about Kenya is that we are not so technologically savvy or developed, but we really are. I mean, Kenya is the home of M-Pesa, which is the biggest like mobile money operator, and it was like one of the first mobile money operators in Africa, and I feel like it has been an example to other mobile monies that came after it. So we are when it comes to digital payments, we are a very developed country, and I feel like that we lead the rest of the world there, which gives us like an advantage when it comes to, let's say, Bitcoin adoption, because it's digital money as well. It's just like really better money, but
Right.
people already understand how digital money works, maybe compared to Lebanon, where cash is everything and they don't understand digital money really well. In Kenya, I feel like teaching Bitcoin and showing them here is the Bitcoin on your phone and here's how you use it. It's going to be easy for them to click compared to a place where digital or mobile money payments are nothing. So yes, we
Right,
are,
and
we
it
are a
makes
really
makes
cool
make
country.
it makes me think of when El Salvador made Bitcoin, what I'm looking for here, legal tender. Thank you. And they launched the Chivo wallet. I suppose many people were not really used to using digital wallets, where, like as you
Mhm.
say, in Kenya, it's more of an adopted thing. Obviously, it takes infrastructure, quick internet. Can you point to some reasons that made Kenya kind of advance on the digital scheme? How do you explain that?
So M-Pesa, let's say Safaricom, it's a telecommunications company. It was a privately owned company. And Vodafone, yeah, it was Vodafone, and then Vodafone like gave back to Safaricom. And there were some private investors actually from the UK who working there at Vodafone. And then like, yeah, Safaricom was an idea from there. And then that's how also M-Pesa came to be born. And I also feel like back then I was reading the history of M-Pesa, and the minister of, was it finance or the minister of something, he was like really for the idea of M-Pesa. Like he did not dismiss it. He did not fight the innovation. Instead, he was like very open to it. And I feel like that played a very important role in the growth of M-Pesa. Like we saw it, it just like shot up and everyone was using it. And then like when it came to sending money back home, we didn't have a great way to do that, and the banks were not like the best option for a lot of people. And we had so many people working in the city and they were looking like to send money back home. And the way people used to do it before M-Pesa was you'd call up your friend or a relative who's traveling back to the village and give them like this um what is it called, like a parcel with money, cash inside it, and then tell them you trust them to just like go and deliver it to your family. Or you'd go to a bus, what are they? We call them stage here, like a bus station where there are so many matatus. We call them matatus. And then you'd give just a driver who's going to that destination and tell them, please drop this for my family. So sometimes the money would not reach your family because they would run off with it. And yeah, money would just get lost. It was just like so difficult. So when M-Pesa came, M-Pesa was made to solve that problem. That was the solution they were giving to people. It's send money back home. It's just through your phone. And we had feature phones back then, and it was just so easy. Their phone number, enter the phone number and the amount of money you're sending, and it will reach them. And then they would go to like an M-Pesa agent and withdraw it as cash. It was like a really cool idea. Every time I read or listen to podcasts about M-Pesa, I'm like, wow, this was so innovative. So when people saw that and it was so easy, like then everyone ran with it and they're like, yeah, we want this. I also feel like Kenyans are very open-minded. You know, they want to try. They're not scared to try new things. And so, yes, I hope that has
I was
answered your
gonna
question.
For sure. And I was going to say that, okay, M-Pesa is an infrastructure to allow mobile payment, but it takes adoption. And you just said that you said you believe Kenyan people in Kenya are forward thinking. They're happy to adopt new technology. So let's talk about Tando. For people who don't know about it, can you tell us what is Tando, how it works, and how important was M-Pesa's existence into helping people adopt Tando?
All right. So Tando is a mobile app that allows anyone in Kenya or anyone who comes to Kenya to spend their Bitcoin anywhere M-Pesa is accepted. So what we've done is, the way we've achieved this is we've married the Bitcoin Lightning Network with our own local mobile network, which is M-Pesa. So we've integrated the two systems, made it possible for us or for you now to be able to transact in Bitcoin whenever you're in Kenya. And of course, M-Pesa has played a great role here, because it's just, we just came and put the lightning switch on their API, and that was it. Magic. Now you can use Bitcoin in 90% of the country, because fun fact is M-Pesa is used by at least 34 million Kenyans. 90% of the country uses M-Pesa. It's everywhere. And if you've been to Kenya, then you know that their green signs, their brand color is green, and there's so many green signs everywhere on the street. You find that from the high-end restaurants or hotels and the big retailers, they have an M-Pesa till number, pay bill, where they accept payments. And then you come to the street, along the street, your street vendors, they also accept M-Pesa. Public transport accepts M-Pesa, everyone, so it's everywhere. So that has also played a big part in helping us Tando's success, basically, because Tando is just an M-Pesa but for Bitcoin. And what I feel that has helped a lot of people adapt or open themselves up to the idea of Bitcoin, because when they see it working just like M-Pesa, they're like, oh wow, so it's money and it works just like M-Pesa, then yeah, I want it, sign me up. So we've seen how that has really, the localization part of it has really helped more people embrace the idea of Bitcoin. But yeah, that's Tando. We allow you to spend your Bitcoin anywhere in the country. And so now living on a Bitcoin standard in Kenya is very much so possible.
I love that. And Bitcoin is often seen in the West or in developed country more as an investment, as a store of value, whereas Tando is explicitly focused on enabling Bitcoin's use as a medium of exchange. Why was this important for you? And also, can you guide us through the user experience? How, when you have Tando, how do you actually get Bitcoin on your wallet and everything?
Okay, so you remember when I was introducing myself, I said that when I was working at Bitcoin Data, I used to get paid in Bitcoin, but I didn't have an easy way to spend it.
Right.
For me, when I get paid in Bitcoin, I had bills to pay. I have my rent, I have groceries to shop. So I didn't have the privilege of holding my Bitcoin for 10 years, which is the reality for most of us here in Africa. We have bills to pay. And so, yeah, we use the money. Yes, we do save. We use Bitcoin both as a medium of exchange and a store of value. Yes, we do save a little percent, and then the other percent we use it to pay for our day-to-day needs. So yeah, Tando came from the idea for me was I needed an easy way to spend Bitcoin. And so I started thinking of solutions, and the solution was Tando. And also during that process, I remember while I was still working at Bitcoin Data and thinking of this solution, it was also a Machankura orange pillar. So that was a side gig I had. Machankura is a USSD Bitcoin wallet. It allows you to send and receive Bitcoin without internet. They've leveraged on the USSD technology, which is really cool. And so I was working for them as an orange pillar, which meaning I would onboard people onto their platform, and I've done a few extra sats. So I used to do this a lot, especially on weekends. And this is where my co-founder and I, we started a culture of tipping in Bitcoin instead of Kenyan shillings in an effort to bring to Orange Pill more people or bring them onto the Bitcoin standard. And so I'd open a Machankura account for them and then send them their Bitcoin tip there. That way, I'd add my few extra sats on Machankura. But the same question always came up from them. The waitresses, the taxi drivers, they were so happy when the money would hit their phone because they think it's just like M-Pesa. And the next question would be so now how do I spend it? Yes, it's here. How can I turn it into groceries? If I want to pay for public transport, how do I do that with this money? And to be honest, I didn't have a great answer for these people because I could not tell them to go to an exchange and then sell your Bitcoin for dollars and then sell the dollars for Kenyan shillings. Like most of these people are
Friction.
newbies. Yeah, they were newbies. They like, I just could not do that. They would not believe in Bitcoin anymore because they're like, it's so complicated. I don't want it. And there's already that misconception. So that question really stayed with me because every day I would get it from like, such people. I was also going through the same problem. So actually that experience showed me that, yeah, whatever I was going through, like there were 1,000 other people going through the same problem. And then at the same time, we had also seen what Bitcoin Django are doing down in Costa Rica. They did the same thing. I feel like they were the first people who actually did this, and we got a lot of inspiration from them. Shout out to Bitcoin Django. So they integrated their local mobile money network. I guess it's called SimPay with the Lightning Network. And now you could, if you go to Costa Rica, you can be able to live on Bitcoin. And we were like, wow, that's really cool. We don't see any reason that wouldn't work with M-Pesa. And M-Pesa, they have like really nice payment rails. Like they're really good because imagine they process 2 billion transactions in a day. So those rails must be really good. And so that's when we were like, this is our sign to actually do this thing. And then we created like a flow chart of the flow of funds. My co-founder, who's the technical person, he did like the documentation. And then we hired a contract developer who put the pieces together for an MVP. And then after we had the MVP, we launched a Gazer campaign. It's like crowdfunding so that we could actually now like start building the real product. And some Bitcoiners were like so generous. They contributed to our project. We had like the first working version, but which was just like open to a few people, the beta testers, our friends here in Kenya. And then we self-funded a little, and then we had like the final version, which we launched last year in December at the African Bitcoin conference. And now like that was so perfect because all Bitcoiners were coming to town and like they're using it. And at first we were so scared. We were like, oh my God, we hope it doesn't break. But it worked. It worked for those 3 days they were here. Like people loved it. They gave us like really cool feedback. And then we used that feedback to, fine-tune Tando to like where it is now. And we also received a very generous grant from the Human Rights Foundation, which has helped us like, in developing the app and in like helping us in other ways. So that was really cool. So that is like the story of how Tando came to be. And then, sorry, do you want to go?
I wanted to say like that's very exciting, and obviously the fact that you're receiving grants is that people believe in your project and what you're doing. So what kind of data or what kind of KPIs do you track in order to understand for the future growth, the behavior of users? How do you build all of that?
So the funny thing, I didn't mention this, but like with Tando, we don't KYC. When you download the app from App Store or the Play Store, like that's it. You go straight to using it. We don't collect your data.
Nice.
And I think that's a Bitcoin thing. Like Bitcoin is supposed to be private. We don't want to know who you are. We respect your privacy. We also do not hold users' funds, which is another important part I wanted to mention. But I'm going to mention this when I explain the flow of things. But those are like really, in terms of privacy, that's like Tando for you. So the only data we see is the transaction volumes. This one, we can see like how much people have transacted in BTC. And since last year, December, we've handled over like 10 BTC in transaction volume, which is really cool in my opinion.
Nice.
And we noticed this pattern where end of month, like at the end of the last week of the month, people tend to spend more. I guess that's natural because that's when the salary comes in. And we have people on social media and they text us, email us, like they're like, oh, I paid my rent with Tando today. Like it's really cool. Or like I paid my school fees. So they're like, that is the one we've noticed a lot. End of month, like people use Tando a lot, especially when it comes to repaying rent. So that's the only data we know. I think we can also see the app downloads. I haven't checked that in a while, but I'm sure like I can get it. But so far, so great. We see the transaction volume like going up every day, increasing every day, which means people use it. And then the thing about Tando is our maximum spend limit is 50,000 Kenyan shillings per like transaction, because we encourage people to use Bitcoin as day-to-day money. Like, we don't want you to just off-ramp and then live on fiat. We want to encourage you, whatever you do, just even if it's like a
Mm.
micropayment, just pay that with Bitcoin. Don't off-ramp your Bitcoin and then go and spend fiat. We want you to like spend that Bitcoin. So that's why we
What's
also
the
have it.
equivalent of 50,000 shillings? What is the equivalent in
Sorry,
dollars?
I think it's like $400 per
Okay.
transaction.
All
Yeah.
right. So, like you're saying, groceries, transportation,
Mm-hmm.
rent, perhaps, if it's not too expensive, day-to-day
Mm.
transactions, which is enabled by the Lightning Network. Congrats.
Yes. Yeah.
So again, Tando's mission and the service it offers contrasts a lot with all the corporate business side of ETFs and
Yeah.
treasury companies, which is completely two worlds apart. This latest cycle has been fueled a lot by these treasury companies, and like Tando seems to exist in a world really far from all this narrative. Can you maybe speak a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think this is the debate, Bitcoin as a medium of exchange versus store of value. Personally, for me, I believe like using Bitcoin is what gives it value and that there's no value without exchange. So even if you're holding your Bitcoin to use later, when that later gets here, you still have to use it. And I believe that the medium of exchange, store of value, they feed on each other. And I think we should stop, putting them apart because, yeah, like for me, I do believe that, yeah, using Bitcoin is what gives it value. And why, if you believe in Bitcoin so much, you as a Bitcoiner, you preach about it, you preach about the freedom that it gives, then why are you still using the bad money? Why are you still like holding, why don't you want to use it if you claim like it's really good money, And then I feel like the West is so different from, like, their reality is so different from our reality. For us here, Bitcoin means access and freedom. Like, it's a privilege that most of us don't have. For in the West, when you look at it, like, their system works for them. The dollar works. I mean, they have the dollar, the euro. Those are some of the most stable currencies compared to like our currencies, like the Kenyan shillings and the naira and the Ugandan shillings and Tanzanian shillings. So for us, when like we can access something like Bitcoin, that means so much to us. It's a system that values us. It values our human rights. It respects us. It does not discriminate against us. It basically works for us, and it doesn't ask anything from us. Come as you are. Like, I'm here for you. And so, yeah, when you have that, why would you use anything else? And so, yeah, I think it's just like the different realities, and it is what it is. But still, using Bitcoin is what gives it its value, and there's no value without exchange.
I love that. And like you said, it's very empowering to use the good money that you yourself can own and not the bad money that is managed by your government, is devalued, that is
Yeah.
debased. So can you talk a bit more about Bitcoin adoption in Kenya? And as well, if you can touch on, you mentioned Uganda, Nigeria. I think you've traveled to these countries for conferences and so on. Can you talk about the state of Bitcoin adoption?
So, like I said again, Bitcoin for most of us here, it's access and freedom. First of all, when it comes to the payment system in Africa, the payment infrastructure rather, like, it's very fragmented. It's very broken. When you want to send money from Nigeria to Kenya, like the traditional way, it's really so hard. The hassle is real. The exchange rates, money might get here after like a few days. But, Bitcoin just like cuts all those, it cuts all like those, what are they called?
Intermediaries.
Yeah, intermediaries and everything. And it's just peer to peer, you and the person you're sending money to, and that's it. And it's very cheap. So there's that. So number one, there's that. Number two, inflation. Like, we know how African currencies are. Like, before we started recording, you asked me about the currencies in West Africa that are still pegged. They use the CFA franc, which is crazy in this day and age. So we have like Zimbabwe currency has inflated like crazy over the years. Uganda as well, Tanzania. So like we actually deal with volatility every day. So when people say Bitcoin is volatile, here in Africa, we just look at them and laugh. We're like, it's new to you. girl, we go through this every day. So like, yeah, so inflation. So Bitcoin is the perfect hedge against inflation for us. It's our safety net. At least when you save your little money, sure that, in a few years, the value will still be the same or it would have gone up, but like it's not gonna corrode my value. And whenever I want to use this money, I can use it. I don't have to go through anyone. I don't have to ask for permission. I can do whatever I want with my money because it's mine. So like for me, when I hear Bitcoin, for most Africans, it's access and freedom because most of them have been locked out of the traditional financial system. And a great example I normally give is there's a Bitcoin circular economy here in Kenya. It's called Afribit Kibera, and it's located in one of the biggest slums here in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kibra. And like, my goodness, every time I go there, I'm so humbled because I'm like, wow, I lack even words to describe it. So these people, again, they live in the slums. They're a minority community. The system does not care about them. They have like informal jobs. So that means like the bank does not recognize them because no, they do not, they can't make the banks enough money basically. So they're locked out of the banks. I know someone might argue, but you guys have M-Pesa, they can use mobile money and so on and so forth. But like the transaction fees are crazy. Not everyone has the privilege of like paying these high transaction fees that you incur when you're using mobile money. And so there's that challenge. So Bitcoin has opened like, it has leveled the ground for them. It has given them like hope and a new opportunity to participate in this global economy. And when you go there, the best thing about Kiva is like they use Bitcoin peer-to-peer as Satoshi intended, which for me is
Wow.
like, man, I wish like everyone has if you guys ever come to Kenya from wherever you're watching, just visit Afrobeat Kibra and you'll see like why Bitcoin matters, especially for like such minority communities. Like you'll get to understand why like Satoshi actually created Bitcoin. It's freedom, it's access for such people. And when you tell them about volatility, like I said, like our currencies are so volatile. So for us, we don't see it as an issue. Like for us, the access and freedom Bitcoin gives, it outweighs the volatility and all the bad things people say about Bitcoin. And actually BBC did a documentary on them. So if you go to BBC Africa, you can watch like what Afrobeat is all about. You can also like be able to reach their community from there. It's really empowering and like it just shows you how powerful Bitcoin is. And there's so many other Bitcoin circular economies that are actually coming up here in Kenya and other African countries. I know you asked about the adoption scene and how it's growing. It's really going well. It's growing every day. I know there are like 200 plus Bitcoin projects right now. And this is like from last year where there were around like 100 or 150. Now they've grown. I feel like there's even 300 plus. So we are seeing, adoption really grows so fast. There's so many Bitcoin projects, especially focusing on education. And it's really empowering to see. And the best part is they're all grassroots projects. So it's starting from the bottom. And I feel like for me, when I see Bitcoin thrive in the bottom, that's when I'm happiest because it was meant for that. The institutions can come in later. We don't care about that. We want individuals to access Bitcoin first and get empowered first, and then the others can come in later.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And yes, it's extremely exciting and very empowering to hear all of your stories. Like you said, Bitcoin is there to be used. You can choose to buy and hold forever, but you can also choose to empower yourself and use it peer-to-peer on a daily basis, whatever amount of transactions, and to really feel like the power of sovereign and uncensorable money. This is really exciting. Can you talk a little bit about mining, say, whether in Kenya or if you have some insights on the rest of Africa in general? Is it something that is also important, adopted? What's happening on that front?
Yeah. So in Kenya, mining is being done, and there's this what are they called? Gridless Compute. It's a mining company here in Kenya, and they're actually doing they're doing great work. Because what they basically, I know there's a misconception around like Bitcoin mining in Africa. People say it's not good, it's causing pollution, etc, etc. But like I feel like it's so different. Our reality is different first of all, there's a lot of untapped energy in Africa, untapped renewable, underlying renewable energy. It can be hydro or wind or geothermal. There's a lot. We have a lot of energy. We are a very rich continent when it comes to resources, by the way. And most of these resources are untapped. So what companies like Gridless do is they establish like this around these communities. There's an untapped energy there. So they go, they build the mining infrastructure around that, and they tap into that energy. They channel it into, Bitcoin mining, and they turn it into value. So they're basically buyers of last resort. And this is great for the community because first of all, they create job employment. I've been to one of their sites in rural Kenya, and before they came there, it was like a very rural community. No electricity, no roads, no nothing. But then they came up and set up this cool infrastructure. The miners are there, the quartz miners and stuff. And so they need people to work at the site, right? To look after the miners or like help assist with like technical stuff. And so that created employment opportunities for that community around there. They also got access to electricity, and electricity basically became cheaper because, gridless is now the buyer of the last resort. And so honestly, it's actually doing more good than the misconception out there that it's polluting. No, it's not. It's actually turning this energy into real value. And we've also seen, I'm not an expert in mining, but I know that in Ethiopia last year, they generated lots of revenue, like millions of dollars from mining, because they allowed mining, their government allowed mining in their country. They had this like really large dam. It had a lot of hydro energy. And so they allowed the miners to come in, and that has generated a lot of money for their economy. So from such stories with Gridless and Ethiopia, you can see that mining in Africa is actually creating a lot of value, and they're not like destroying anything or polluting anything. Those are just misconceptions that people spread. And the funny thing is, like, even traditional financial systems or traditional industries, they use a lot of energy. But nobody ever talks about this. Nobody ever traces this. And nobody like comes at them with the same energy they come at with to the Bitcoin miners. So yeah.
It made me think of a few years ago where ESG was a huge talking point. Even BlackRock had many ESG products. Since then, they completely put them to the side and focus on the Bitcoin ETF, which has been their most successful product and most profitable product. And I was always confused, like, all this talk about ESG and saving electricity. How does that make sense when, on the other hand, all the government are subsidizing the price of electrical cars? AI is being adopted massively, and obviously it needs a lot of energy. So this does not make sense. Clearly now I think things are evolving, or at least people are kind of realizing that the disconnect between these two different narratives. In order to be abundant, yes, we need AI, yes, we need electricity. Like you said, the untapped energy reserves that Africa has, they can be used to benefit the life of people living there. So I'm happy that Bitcoin mining is being adopted, just like you said. I wanted to ask you, Sabina, about whether, let's say, for launching Tando, for mining, for Bitcoin adoption in general, what kind of regulation are there in Kenya regarding Bitcoin or other digital assets?
That's a great question. So where do I start? So in Kenya, back in 2012, 2015, the central bank chief, he said that the only thing he said, he was like, Bitcoin is too volatile and it's too risky. Buy it or participate in it at your own risk. But he didn't deem Bitcoin as illegal. He just said it's risky. You do with it at your own risk. Like we as a Central Bank of Kenya, we do not recommend that. Some people took his advice. Some people, the smart people, they did their research, they bought their Bitcoin, and they're happy whatever they are. So fast forward to today, and I'm speaking for Kenya because I'm from Kenya. Fast forward to today, we have the virtual asset service provider bill that was just passed by the parliament, and it's now awaiting for the president to sign it, and now it will be passed into law. So this is like a new law regulating, crypto and Bitcoin and exchanges, all those types of things. And so, like, yeah, we've come a long way, and we can see that our government, they're starting to embrace Bitcoin and virtual assets and all those things. So at least they're not close-minded anymore.
Yeah.
So we are gonna see before the year ends, hopefully, we will see like the law. Hopefully the president signs it, and now it will be like practically law. I don't think Bitcoin businesses are happy about that because nobody would likes regulation, but I guess it has to come at some point. But when you transact Bitcoin peer to peer, I don't think regulation will ever catch up with that. So, but I do believe that, when the new law is passed and the president approves, I feel like we are going to see more people opening themselves up to, okay, so now the president has passed it. Now, okay, fine, I can, let me learn more about Bitcoin. Maybe we'll also start seeing more investors. So I guess it's good PR for us as Bitcoiners. It's going to lead to, it's going to lead to more awareness the way I see it. The goal is to have Bitcoin peer-to-peer eventually, and I just think this is one stage that will lead to that future. Yeah, for Kenya, we are in the transition stage. I believe for countries like South Africa, they already have clear rules and regulations in place, which has helped like so many Bitcoin startups and Bitcoin businesses to thrive because, they're building and they have no fear of being shut down. There's actually a great Bitcoin company in South Africa called Money Badger. They've onboarded is it 650,000 merchants onto the Bitcoin standard. So you can basically go, yeah, they've partnered with Scan to Pay, the platform Scan to Pay. So now you can go to like over 650,000 merchants at Carrefour, at some steak restaurants, Broco Mamas, and just scan with your Bitcoin Lightning wallet and pay. And I've experienced this because I was there early this year and I went to shop at, Carrefour? No, not Carrefour. I forget their supermarket. I forget the name of their supermarket. But
I've
yeah,
seen
I
a
shopped.
video, I think, was it you? I've seen a video of you maybe using Tando at Carrefour in Kenya, probably.
Yeah. That was me using Carrefour in Kenya. In South Africa, I forget what their supermarket. Oh, Pick and Pay. It's called Pick and Pay in South Africa. So you just go scan with your Lightning wallet and then you pay with Bitcoin. They receive Bitcoin. And it's like really cool to see that. But, South Africa has always been very fast forward in everything. It's just it's the most developed country in Africa, so it makes a lot of sense. And then you have countries like us here in Kenya, we are transitioning. You have countries in North Africa, like Egypt, where I know crypto or Bitcoin, they banned Bitcoin and crypto, and they're like, do not read these things. So yeah, it varies with different African countries. And my hope is to see more, I feel like Africa is still on the sidelines about Bitcoin and about innovation and technology. They've always been like that. I really hope that we can have better leaders, bold leaders who are not scared to try new things. They're not scared to just go for it. They're just not waiting on the sidelines and watching what the West will do. And then they just copy and paste that need. Because the individuals like us, we have so many creative and talented builders, tech innovators, visionaries. We just now, I wish now our leaders could match that. And I feel like Africa would be up there because this is the most fertile ground for Bitcoin, in my opinion. And I believe that. So yeah, I hope Africa leads. We become the blueprint for Bitcoin.
I hope that, and I want to say also, in a way, you and the Tando team are leaders in your own way. Maybe you're not government leaders, but you are making it possible for people to adopt Bitcoin, and congratulations for that. And I also love what you said about potentially regulation. I mean, the aim is Bitcoin peer-to-peer, right? But maybe Bitcoin becoming regulated will appease some fears of people who don't want to touch it because they believe in the FUD that, it's a Ponzi or it's a black market or a blah, blah, blah. So it's maybe a stepping stone into people realizing, okay, this works and this gives me sovereignty over my money. So eventually they get to the peer-to-peer, fully sovereign Bitcoin standard.
Mm-hmm.
Sabina, if we
Mm-hmm.
talk about Bitcoin being sovereign and uncensorable, obviously custody is a core component of that. Can you talk about your views on custody, how it is understood over there in Kenya? What are your personal views as well regarding Bitcoin custody?
Hey, so when we start there, Bitcoin was created to put the power back into people's hand. It's money for the people. So when it comes to custody, definitely self-custody, in my opinion, makes sense to me. Like there's no point of having Bitcoin if you're still custodying it with a third party, right? Because it was meant to be, you are meant to be your own bank. So yes, self-custody your Bitcoin. Like that is my opinion. That's when like it truly achieves what it was meant to do. But again, people need to understand, or we need to understand, like we are in a transitioning stage. For the longest time, we've been used to like financial institutions taking care of our money, like there's always customer care. If something goes wrong, hello, my money is stuck. Can you help me? Like there's always someone taking care of it, like babysitting your money, for lack of a better word. Like that's the system we were born into. That's the system our parents and their parents were born into. Like, we've never had a money where you are in full control. So, and it's kind of scary, to be honest, when you're in full control of your own money. So, because we are now in that transitioning stage, I don't expect a lot of people to go the self-custodial way, like right away. You have to start somewhere. It's like teaching a baby how to walk, that happens in stages. They first need to learn how to sit down straight without like any support, and then they start crawling, then they start like supporting themselves with things like tables and all that, and then now they're able to stand fully and walk. I feel like it's the same thing when it comes to Bitcoin custody. When you're for newbies or for people new in Bitcoin, like you have to start with the custodial wallets, and then you gotta learn how to send Bitcoin to store it. You'd learn more about Bitcoin, and then you get to a point where you finally understand, like, oh wow, like yeah, it just makes sense for me to funds from my wallet, custodial wallet of Satoshi, to Phoenix. I'll be like, I'm gonna do it today, and then today gets here, and then I'm like, oh no, 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 I can't do it. I'm gonna do it tomorrow, until eventually I was able to do it. And so this is gonna be the case for a lot of other people, just because we are transitioning and this is the first time we are fully responsible for our own money. And it's a scary process, to be honest, like, because you could wake up tomorrow, you have lost all your money and you have no one to blame, you have nowhere to go to.
Right.
So it makes sense for people to first go the custodial way and then self-custodial later on. So yeah, those are my opinions there.
It's a process, and indeed, thank you for sharing. Sabina, as we start to wrap up, I want to ask you, besides Bitcoin, can you maybe share with us something that you really like about Kenya, about living in Kenya?
I love the people. I feel like Kenyans are the most friendliest people. There's a sense of community here. The weather is perfect. It really is perfect. And people love to party. I'm not a party person, but you'll never be bored around Kenyans. Kenyans are they're open-minded. They're open to learning. First, you'll go back and forth with them. You'll fight, but then they'll be like, okay, fine, I'll learn. And then their sense of humor, like, we might be in a crisis, but Kenyans will always find a way to just be happy and make the best out of it, out of the moment. And also, we are very united. Like last year, we had the financial bill protest, passed a certain finance bill in parliament, and this finance bill was going to wreck a lot of people. Like it was not really good for a lot of people, considering the financial situation that we are in. Like inflation is, our currency is losing value every day. The central bank says that the inflation rate is, at their range or whatever. It's at 4.5% right now, and they're like, it's not that bad. But like the shilling has been devaluing every day, and everywhere you go, you feel that pain, and people communicate it like, my groceries have gotten expensive. The rent has gotten expensive. Everything is getting expensive. And they're like, oh, this government is so bad. But we try to help them understand it's the value of your money. This is why you need Bitcoin. So people are feeling pain everywhere. And so when this finance bill came, like, it was like the government was shoveling the sword and they wanted to kill us. And so people are like, no, we are not gonna let you like tramp on us with these things. So people went to protest. We went to protest on the streets because I was on the streets as well. And so like that showed me how united we are as Kenyans if we decide to, come through for our nation, even for like people. I've seen people on TikTok, on social media. There's someone who's sick. They don't even know this person. They just crowd fund for them and they go and help them. So I really love like that sense of community, the humor of my people, the weather. It's just like a cool country to be at, and I'm a proud Kenyan, and I'm happy to be building in the Bitcoin space in Kenya and helping like my fellow Kenyans come onto the Bitcoin standard so that they can experience the freedom that Bitcoin offers. I want them to because they deserve it.
Wow, this is such a great, like a nice ad for Kenya. Hopefully, I can visit someday and experience all these nice things that you just
Yeah,
said.
wait.
Uh,
Sorry. One more thing. And now you can live on Bitcoin in Kenya with Tando. So that makes it
right.
perfect. We're a Bitcoin country. Yeah.
So, what's next for Tando in the coming month, maybe in the coming year?
So right now we're in the process. So our mission, first of all, has always been accelerating Bitcoin as a medium of exchange across Africa, starting here in Kenya. So for us right now, we are working on expanding into other African countries. That is what we are currently working on. It's a headache. It's not easy, but we are working through it. And I'm so much confident that we are gonna be able to do that. So yeah, that's like what we have right now, expanding to other countries. Like take this Tando experience to other countries, because during last year African Bitcoin conference we had so many people from other countries like Ivory Coast and Ivory Coast, Tanzania, Uganda. They're like, oh my god, when are you coming to our country, so since now we saw like the value, people love Tando and the value it provides, now the next step is definitely taking it to these other countries, and that's what we are working on. And yeah, we will inshallah soon to be successful.
Inshallah, very exciting. I wish you the best. We
Thank
will
you.
be including obviously all the related Tando information in the show notes for people who would like to learn more.
Go ahead.
Sabina, thank you so much for coming and for sharing all these insights and for your time today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a fun episode. And if you haven't watched this, you want to learn more about Tando, you're curious. We didn't get to show them how Tando works, the process, unfortunately. But if you'd like to learn more about Tando, you can always reach out to me. My email is sabina@tando.me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sabina, I
Thank you
wish
so
you a
much.
great rest of your day, and we will be looking forward to hear the news about Tando expanding to other countries in Africa. Good luck with that.
Okay. Have a lovely rest of your day. And bye, everyone. Study Bitcoin.